Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Architectural Committee's, let's see, we're in January meeting, and we will begin with some introductions. So let's see, Amy,
Amy Stein of the committee.
John,
John Kluver of the committee.
uh, Justin,
Justin Detweiler of the committee.
Nan,
Nan Gutterman Committee.
and then let's see, I guess that's
I don't see
it.
Allison. And
Allison's not here, and then I'm Dan McCubry, committee chair. And we'll begin with Executive Director John Farnham um, telling us about some procedures and protocols for today's meeting.
Thank you and good morning. Just a note, Allison Lukaczyk of the committee did email us earlier this morning, and she'll be a few minutes late, hopefully arriving by 9:30 or so. The meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. The recording will be available later on the Historical Commission's website. That is www.phila.gov/historical. Also on that website, you'll find everything for today's meeting, the agenda, application materials, and any public comment that was received by noon yesterday. You can take a look at that on the meetings page of the Historical Commission's website. Every review includes an opportunity for public comment. If you'd like to comment, you'll need to raise your hand during the public comment period. And once the chair has acknowledged you to speak, you will have to unmute from your end. We'll unmute you from our end, but you'll have to do it from your end as well. And if you happen to be on a standard telephone, *9 to raise and lower your hand, *6 to mute and unmute. The committee typically makes its decisions by unanimous consent, but if there is apparent disagreement among committee members, can conduct a roll call vote. And then finally, the Historical Commission has adopted guidelines for conduct at its meetings. If you're unfamiliar with those, please take a look at them. They're available on the public meetings page of the Historical Commission's website. With that, I will turn it back to the chair, Dan McCubry. Thank you.
Right, thank you, John. Let's moving on to the items on the agenda today. The first is 25 South Van Pelt Street.
All right, I assume everyone can see the screen there.
Yes.
All right, please elevate Christopher Stromberg. I believe he's listed as Christopher on the attendee list, and William Vessel, the panelist. I will read a brief overview. Located between Ludlow and Chestnut Streets in the Rittenhouse-Fittler Historic District, the property at 25 West Van Pelt Street features two notable buildings, shown on the right in this slide. A Renaissance revival portion of the south, designed by Westray and Ladd, constructed in 1894, and a modern section designed by Magaziner and Eberhardt, constructed in 1939. The 1939 project entailed rehabilitation of the entire complex, including exterior modifications to and partial demolition of the 1894 building, which was originally twice as wide. The 1939 addition included a large gymnasium, lecture rooms, basement workshops, and a caged-in roof court. In February 2020, the Historical Commission granted final approval on the right-hand side in this screen to the conversion of the 1939 addition into 3 attached townhouses with a 1-story addition on the gymnasium roof. The plans did not propose changes to the 1894 building, and the plan was not implemented. The current proposal, which you see on the left, calls for a 4-story addition on the gymnasium with 8 apartments and was first submitted for review at the 2025 November Architectural Committee meeting. In response to the staff recommendation, that proposal was withdrawn and has been resubmitted for the January 2026 Architectural Committee meeting. The revised proposal still includes 4 stories above the former gymnasium. The overbuild is significantly differentiated from the gymnasium with a contemporary glass curtain wall. The revised submission leaves the cornice line of the gymnasium intact. The proposal amends the fenestration pattern on the east and west facades to accommodate the change in program, while still referencing the previous approval by the Historical Commission. The balconies no longer project, and 2 garage doors have been added to the west facade. The rooftop would include a common penthouse space and deck. The application proposes rehabilitation of the 1894 building. A previous version was inadvertently shown at December's Architectural Committee meeting. That was presented in error, and that discussion should not be included in any consideration of the revised design you see today. The staff recommendation is denial pursuant to Standard 2 and 9 and the Windows guideline. As I said, Mr. Stromberg and Mr. Vessel are here to discuss the project.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think you all at least are very familiar with this application for the last few years and previous applications and what we're proposing, what we've been proposing to do. So I think I wanted to just jump right into the recommendations, the most recent recommendations, and address those directly as far as the Standard 2, Standard 9, and the window guidelines. So as you can see, we've really tried to maintain taking into the accounts, we really tried to maintain as much of the original kind of proportions and of the 1939 building. And just to be clear again, we're not talking at all about the 1894 building, which will be completely restored at a later date once we get through this part. So in previous comments, there was looking at the previous approval from 2020, maintaining the banding or ribbon window at the top was a significant ask, and we've really held true to that. Even with incorporating balconies, we've kept spandrel glass, we've kept the exact opening for the window banding. At the second floor, just punched openings for the second floor, which there currently are no openings at all at the second, what would be a second floor level. And then at the first floor, what was previously approved were 3 entrances and 1 garage door. We're at 1 entry and 2 garage doors right now, and so kind of keeping with the 3-part structural bay. So we're really trying to maintain as much as we can of the original brick addition, which again is a 1939 addition to this 1894 building, built as a very utilitarian building. It's a gymnasium with a double height space at the second floor that has a clear story window. There is no street access at all into that part of the building from Van Pelt Street. So as far as the recent recommendations of not addressing Standard 2, Standard 9, and the window guidelines, the previous approval did not also meet those recommendations because it was kind of virtually impossible for us to make this part of the building viable without doing some of those alterations just by the nature of how it was originally built. So we really feel that even though it doesn't meet true to the word of the guidelines, that we're still within the realm of what was previously approved for this. And as far as the addition goes, we had a 1-story addition on top. The main part of coming back for this was that we spent a few years about 4 years going through the viability of this residential as a residential project, the single family homes that we got approved before, based on this, where this is in the street, the size of these, the expense, that project, that pro forma for that program did not really, we could not make that one work. So that's when we came back with an addition, which is still very much by right within this CMX zoning. And so we're proposing a 3-story addition with a setback 4th floor. So as far as the scale goes, we do believe that if you look at the proportions of the addition and the proportions of the original addition from 1939, we're keeping right almost in line with the exact proportions and scale of that addition with a modern addition on top of it, going with a glass curtain wall, really separating and distinguishing the addition from that, floating it up above, and taking into account many of the precedents in Philadelphia and throughout the country and throughout the world about what an addition, a larger addition on top of a historic building might look like, and a good way to differentiate it. Looking at more of a glass curtain wall in order to kind of float that addition up above and have it kind of visually fall back a little bit, letting the red brick and cornice line remain. We're thinking about the building around the corner, the beautiful KTA building that was recently built on Market Street. That kind of has a somewhat of a similar, it's a much different project. It's a much different scale project, but very elegantly done. Large glass addition on top of a 3-story historic building, similar to what we have. That is a little further down. Keep going. You can keep going. Oh,
I'm not sure that
what happened to that slide? There it is. Okay,
Is
right
it-
down bottom left there. Beautiful building that was recently completed. And then the scale is, if you just see the green in the middle of our building on Van Pelt Street, a very small street, ending up with what would be presenting at the street as a 6-story building. We have 14-story buildings that are nearby. We have the Murano at the other end of the block. We have a proposed development that wraps around that has about a 300-foot tall tower in it. And so we're looking at, as a comment being that it's out of scale, we're feeling that we're definitely within scale. And once the project next to us gets built, it'll almost be dwarfed in scale. So this 8-unit proposal, we felt really met the where we needed to be to make the project work, the investment that we're going to put into the 1894 building. Our team has won multiple Preservation Alliance awards in the past. The developers won even more awards than our firm has. And so we have a track record of following through with those, and we would be moving forward with all of the complete restoration of the 1894 building once we kind of come to an agreement on how to approach the 1939 building. So that's where we feel like we're meeting the same, in the spirit of the same guidelines and recommendations that we had in 2020. And then this slide is really interesting. We saw this as what could have been. This was actually in the set of construction documents from Magaziner from 1939, where they were actually proposing to completely tear down the 1894 building and build a significantly larger kind of recreational style building. The gym building was built, if you look at the structure, we're able to build 3, 4, 5 stories on top of the existing gym because it was built, even in its current state, to be added upon. It has gigantic concrete beams that span across this. So there was a plan to eventually keep trying to add on to this. We believe there's not a talk of that, but and kind of looking at the history and documentation. So we're feeling like that we're meeting at the scale of what originally might have been there to begin with. So we just thought this was an interesting slide that it was included in the construction documents. So I think that at that we can, if you want to get back to, so the elevations there, you can see we're maintaining the ribbon window, even with the balcony. We're maintaining spandrel glass as at the floor level, and glass spandrel and glass railings for that, and then continuing that up above with mostly curtain wall glass.
Chris, your voice is fading.
I'm sorry. How's that? Is that any better?
Don't
Yeah.
know
That's
what's
a little
happening.
better, but I think, are you ready for comments?
Yeah, ready for comments.
All
Thank you.
right.
So I see there's sort of two issues here that both need to be addressed. One is what is happening to the existing building, and then the second is the addition itself. And I think this slide is very telling in terms of what's happening with the existing building, in that I, when I look at the proposal, I almost don't recognize the existing building in it. There's there's an image, it's roughly slide 12 in the package that has a series of sort of photo vignettes. Keep going. That one. And you see there's this view down the street, the bottom left one here. And the thing that strikes me is that the windows at that first floor level of the magazine or edition are so nicely aligned with the ones in the older building. And they provide a sense of scale to the street. And I feel that the proposed changes here, which are mostly garage doors at this point, completely eliminate that aspect of it and kind of take away that whole pedestrian contribution to the street. So when you go back to the comparison elevations that we were starting on, yeah, right there, yes. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is that you get the sense of it being a two-story building in the existing condition, and now it feels like a three-story building. So there are a couple fundamental changes that are being proposed to the existing building that just are not consistent with good preservation practice. So that is where a lot of my concerns lie with the existing building.
Could we look at the comparison of the approval from 2020 and the current one that we included? Yeah. So I can totally
One thing we
understand where you're
fought
coming
for.
from, and I think that the comments about the modifications to the lower windows at the street level in the addition building, and then adding fenestrations at the second level. This is where we really tried to look at what we went through about 4 meetings back in 2020, 2019 and 2020 to arrive at this, to try to provide as much entry with keeping the proportions and where the brick openings kind of, already exist. So that's where, and this is what we were approved to do at that level. So we were already approved to make those changes.
Right. And then you took it and took it,
it is further.
you took
Absolutely.
another step further. So you took something that we were already kind of on the fence about, and then you took it a step further.
Yeah, and this is where we're open for discussion for,
If you look at the one that was approved, at least like the windows on the right of the magazine or building still retain that sense of the connection of the sill level and the head height. Even that inserted second level band relates to the sills of the windows on the second floor of the older building. And then the ribbon windows at the old gym level, your third floor, don't have that gap taken out of them for the balcony. So it's a bunch of little things that took something that went from here to here and now take it to here. And that's where my concern really is that, it's the kind of like give an inch, take a foot.
Yeah, I mean that scale of that streetscape that we did approve is dramatically different than what you're proposing now. It's that giant void that it feels almost, excuse me, like it would be for a much taller, larger building. It doesn't feel pedestrian in scale, and the garage doors, that complete streetscape feel is gone in this scheme. And I agree completely with what John said. I mean, we weren't terribly comfortable with the previous scheme.
It's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to us, that was a concession, but that at least maintained some of these key features. That building felt like it had these kind of smaller punched openings, and the 2020 scheme still had feelings of that. And this is like, there's so little left of this original building that it certainly doesn't meet the standards in my point of view. One thing I want to point out and ask about is if you look at the light divisions of the gymnasium level, there are 5 lights high on those large windows, and you're proposing 4. Why is the window proportion changing?
In order to make the larger, as far as the mullions spacing inside of
Yes.
there, yeah, the larger mullion in the middle becomes a casement, becomes an operable window. We can add for sure and create the mullion system similar and have 5 lights high. We just wanted to be able to have that double height of the existing mullion would become an operable window, but that can be built. We can totally build that in to have the same 5 light high, 5 light wide
Yeah,
proportions.
I mean, this is not a concept approval. This is a final approval you're asking for. And the details, there's so few details to a contemporary, well, to a modern, capital M modern building like this, that getting those existing details or those historic details right on this revised, renovated building, we need to exactly replicate those details as best as possible. I understand the need for a casement window or more operability, but it would have to maintain that detailing. And by the way, there's no drawings in this packet for anything like that. And it would be helpful for the full commission level if you would include some additional details of how you propose to fill those openings.
I'll also just add on there that when you look at the actual image of the building, those windows have a very strong sense of verticality to them. You barely sense those horizontal divisions. On this facade that we're looking at here, you can see the bottom band because those are operable, so they have a frame that's creating additional division there. Now, I don't know if there's like an outer layer of glass that's obscuring those horizontals, or if that was always the intention to have that sense of verticality, but that's something that we'd
Or
want
maybe
to
a
see.
storm window or something. It's hard to tell.
It's hard to
But
tell. When you look at the old rendering, you can see that there's a lower, basically a bottom awning and an upper awning. And then it doesn't feel quite as vertical there, so I could be mistaken in this, and I'm just responding to the photos um, of the existing condition. But to pick up Justin's point, that the sense of what was there is something that we'd be looking
Yeah,
to
that is just the
retain.
storm glazing on the outside of that. So that
That
original,
part's less critical
the
then. Okay, thank
original
you.
kind of jalousie system, enlarged jalousie type system that's there of this of all the smaller windows is more of a grid that's behind there. When you see that from the inside, it is pretty much an even grid.
Okay.
again, replicating those details as much as possible of what should be there. I mean, storm glazing aside, matching the detailing of the windows themselves is super critical here.
Yeah, which is why we weren't pursuing more of this vertical piece because that's actually just an added storm glazing later on.
I
Hey,
agree,
Fig,
and I'd have to say the balcony is actually a problem because I think when you remove that sense of glazing, it's going to be a major disruption in the facade. That's critical to this historic district. And I think on that, what is it, your level 3, since you've inserted a level 3 has a balcony that I think the glass should be coplanar with the other glass. It's going to look like a void from the street.
Yeah, these were just the only because we're landlocked on all the other sides by the adjacent properties. This was really the only facade that we can have any sort of outdoor space for the second or third floor, both the second and third floor units.
Well, you're showing a balcony on the east facades.
That's for a air conditioner
I
unit.
see.
And it's like a little, if you look at the floor plan,
Yeah, I see it now.
because we really are 3 feet away from all the properties.
I'm also concerned with the massing of this building. It just so overpowers the historic building. And some of the examples you showed are cited differently, so thereby having taller buildings is acceptable, but not on this narrow street. I think that was why the one-story addition was a compromise, but was more acceptable because it didn't tower over the roof line of the historic building. And so you're essentially adding 3 stories plus a roof deck plus a penthouse, and it's just all just too, in my mind, just too large for this site, too much mass.
With no setback.
With no setback and the little narrow sort of, where you've stepped it up off the roof so you don't actually connect it isn't enough to really um, understand that what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, the one story where we ended up previously is we really tried to make that work with the setback as well. And the setback wasn't necessarily
Right.
the biggest issue. It was the expense of going through all of this ultimately to add one more floor to it. Just it was a really difficult
And
program.
maybe one of the other issues, and I don't know, I don't recall the material of the submission we approved in 2020, but maybe it's also just the amount of glass that you're proposing on this addition versus the historic buildings. It's just such a contrast that it it needs to be more balanced, I'm gonna say.
Well, we didn't really want to pursue doing any brick or anything up above there as a modern addition in order to really satisfy the differentiation and not compete with the red
But
brick.
there may be more of a balance. I mean, you do have some solid material on this edition, so maybe it's more of a balance or a balance between the glass and the solid. Um, it's also the fact that you haven't tried to follow the rhythm of what's below and what you've built above. So there's also sometimes success, and I think you do it in what you designed in 2020 was there was more success in sort of the balance of solid and glass. There was more a balance between where windows were in the new versus the old. And here it's sort of like this building in my mind, I'm one of whatever there, 5 of us at the moment. I just don't see this as sort of being complementary to the historic building.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I could forgive some addition. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna disagree a little bit with my colleague there. I think that seeing this, the original building as a kind of a podium for something that's very different above is actually an approach that I would favor. I think if the gap could be a little bit more, but in general, I kind of don't have a problem with the overbuild here, given that it's differentiated as much as it is, provided that the gap could be a little bit more, but especially in this part of the city, which is, it is really right downtown. But I think that the more that they overbuild, it contrasts to the base, the better. And with that the original building was really, very modern, flush facade, and so all of the setbacks are, contradict that kind of fundamental approach to the modern facade. So I would really want to eliminate the setbacks. There are plenty of apartments that don't have balconies in the city. I also think that the windows that are added, we'll call it a kind of the mezzanine windows, if they were significantly smaller, like they were in the original, and that you really read the three main gymnasium windows as the primary element on the facade, that would be helpful. The two garage doors are unfortunate. There was a kind of a nice small window on the lower level on the left-hand side of the facade that kind of gave it a little bit, that bay is a little thinner, and it gave it a kind of an end to the composition. If I agree with staff that one garage door would be acceptable, but two is difficult. The entrance bay, I think, being recessed, it would be helpful if you could enter into a vestibule and then go up inside rather than having to do it on the outside. That would give you a little more ability to break up that make that opening look a little bit more like it did originally. Those are my comments.
Yeah, I'm kind of between Nan and Dan on this one. I'm not as opposed to overbuild, but the fact that it doesn't sit back at all and there's just that tiny little sliver of a relief, to me, the streetscape will read completely differently. And to Dan's point about increasing that reveal, if that reveal was the whole, I guess, fourth story of this building or something, that there was some form of a setback to let that original roofline read. That to me is, I keep looking at the photo that John Kluver pointed out, which was that streetscape view. Dan, would you bring that back? Yeah, I mean, you see that ribbon window, such a critical design feature that is now being dissolved by void. And that crisp, sharp roof line that aligns with that overhang of the original building. I think maintaining that line in the streetscape is important. So however you choose to do that, by setting something back or increasing that reveal, I think is important. That's my comments.
Do we have other comments from committee members? Is there a public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
We have, okay, never mind. I'll make a motion of going with a staff recommendation of denial pursuant to standards 2 and 9 in the Windows guideline.
I'll second.
Right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 124 South 16th Street.
Do you
Good
think
morning.
I'm sorry, while you're pulling that up, I just wanted to introduce myself since I joined late. Allison Lakachik, committee. Thanks. Sorry, Kim.
No, thanks, Allison. If there is anyone here representing this application, if you could please use the raise hand feature in Zoom and Tony will promote you to panelist. I did not see the applicant's name listed in the attendees. I'll read a brief overview. This application proposes legalizing signage installed without a permit at 124 South 16th Street. At the request of the Historical Commission staff, the Department of Licenses and Inspections issued a violation for the signage installed without a building permit, prompting this request for legalization. The new signage includes a small projecting sign by the doorway and a large acrylic channel letter wall sign at the storefront transom. The storefront was installed in 1921 when the building transitioned from residential to mixed use. And here's a photo showing before the building had the storefronts. The Historical Commission previously approved an awning open at the sides and bottom as signage over the transom at the storefront. And so the scope of work is to legalize the signage, and the staff recommendation is denial pursuant to standard 9 in the storefronts guideline.
There's no applicant. I would agree with the staff recommendation.
Also
And-
point out that this was an individual designation. It
And I'd
was,
also,
go ahead, sorry.
no, I was going to say usually we can't legalize anything.
Is the sign illuminated as well?
I believe that.
The letters look
is.
like they're illuminated.
Mhm. And now this page of the application is a little misleading because the existing view is not what they're showing there, but that was the view before any signage was installed.
I just have a small question, which is where is this retail space? Is it in the basement or something? It seemed like maybe they're trying to
No,
find
it's
a
actually up
signage
the
location.
stairs.
It's
on
up
the
first
stair-
floor.
Yeah. I walk past this enough. It's up the steps to the right, that door.
Sure.
It may also be in the basement. So it may be basement and first floor.
The drawings show that those are illuminated LED letters. What's unfortunate about it, besides its design, is that it covers the transom, which is a nice feature.
Yeah, I mean, I guess before we close out, I mean, giving guidance on what an appropriate sign would look like
What-
might be helpful.
Is the sign at Joe's Pizza approved, or it was pre-designation?
No, that building's actually not designated.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I know. I was actually I'm surprised every time I relearn that. But so it is contextually next to a very large sign at Joe's Pizza, but the Joe's Pizza building is not listed on the local register.
Okay.
So it did look like there was vinyl appliques on the outside of the window. I'm not sure that's also allowed. I think they can do signs inside the glass, but not surface mounted on the glass. Along the basement windows there, it looks like those are vinyls applied to the outside.
And also the smoke shop perpendicular sign, is that approved?
So the projecting sign that
Yeah.
that's part of, so the signage installed without permits includes the very large sign and then also this projecting sign.
I mean, many stores choose to put, if they want some sort of an accessory sign like this behind the glass within the building. Not ideal because it's a giant sign, but at least it's not altering the facade of the building.
Kim, did the awning cover both the door transom as well as the storefront, or was it just the storefront?
It was just the storefront.
It's a shame we can't cover the transom of that
Well,
upper.
we could, but at that time it only covered over and I'm sorry, I should have included an image of that. It wasn't the greatest awning, but it was a solution.
And I guess my recommendation to them is they look at putting an awning back with this prime tobacco, whatever it says, on that awning, and to follow what the awning looked like. So.
Additional.
All right, well, should we have a motion?
Public comment, perhaps, or
Public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
Make a motion of denial pursuant to standards 9 in the storefront guideline.
I'll second.
Unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 Do we know if that violates zoning too?
Well, the question is whether they
Yes.
went before the Art Commission to get approval.
So what this signage should require zoning and building permits, so.
All right,
Yeah.
well, we have 4
4
minutes
minutes.
before the next item. While we have 4 minutes and we have everyone here, I think Commissioner Frankel has actually recommended a contractor to fill Rudy's vacant spot on our committee. And it's a builder named Sam Weiner from HSW Hobart. And John and the staff of the commission are very familiar with him. He has been the contractor on many projects that have gone through the staff. We as a committee have not seen him that often because he's the contractor and they're represented by the architects. I spoke with him and thought that he would be a good addition to our committee. So what I will do is forward to you the resume he provided. And if you have no objections, then I will recommend, we will recommend to the commission that he join our committee in the February meeting, and then he would attend our February committee meeting. So February. Yeah, it would be the February meeting, our February committee meeting. He would be approved at the February commission meeting. I would say that when you go to his website, it looks like a lot of fancy interior work, but in fact, he has quite a bit of experience with exterior restoration and as well. So,
How does it work for his company if they're currently having things reviewed with the staff? It just means that he can't be the one who meets with the staff?
I think he could meet with the staff. I don't know. He could not attend the committee or commission meeting, or he'd have to
But
recuse.
if he's on the committee, I guess he can't present before us, but if he's
That's
not the
right.
one presenting, then I guess it's not an issue.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, for that update.
All right, it just clicked 9:45, so let's move on to 302 Carpenter Street.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Here. I believe that Rustin Oler has already raised his hand as the architect of this project. I believe the owner may also be in the meeting if they would like to raise their hand to speak. I will read a brief overview. Excuse me. This application proposes a 3-story rear addition to the building at 203 Carpenter Street with a small deck at the second floor level. The proposal includes demolition of the existing 2-story rear L and the rear wall of the historic main block of the building, which survives at the second and third floor levels. As proposed, the roof system of the addition would intersect the roof of the main block near the rear eave, but no details are provided showing that junction. A skylight is also proposed for the rear slope of the gable roof. The proposed addition would be visible from various points along Hall Street, though a one-story garage at 206 Hall Street mitigates the view somewhat. The staff recommendation is denial pursuant to Standard 9. So I believe, again, let me see.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. I'll leave it up to you all.
Ted, do you have our updated presentation? Can we walk through that?
Yeah, yes. Give me one moment. I put the. Let me think about how I added those new slides. I believe I
By
we stopped
updated,
sharing.
are these ones that we have not seen?
There are, I think, three new images. So I put them
or
on.
modified slides. Staff gave us comments that we had updated and submitted to them last week. The project has not changed at all. It's just some clarifications that staff had asked for.
I think what I did was I put those at the end of my of the presentation. So let's just go through it and I'll
Okay,
find
that's
those.
fine.
So
Yeah, that's fine. We can start here or wherever you want.
yeah.
So as Ted had mentioned, we're not proposing any changes to the existing front part of the house or main roof of the house. Existing chimney that you can see in this image is to remain. All of the existing roof and roof joists of the existing house are to remain. We are proposing to demolish the rear 1 and 2 story portions. And to demolish the rear wall entirely. And extend the house with a 3-story addition out the rear. The majority of the house in the rear is blocked and obscured from Hall Street. There is a series of 1-story garages along Hall Street, which are separately deeded properties and not included in this application. So from the aerial, it's very visible, but as you can see from the street view image there, you can only see a small portion of the building. And then we have some line of sights that when we're done, you can see the top like 4 feet of the addition. So the addition is proposed to be clad in white cedar mill fiber cement siding. It will have a flat roof. The skylight that we were proposing has been moved and is entirely within the addition. So we're leaving the existing main roof and roof structure alone of the existing house. If you want to go to the next slide. So there you can see that the top portion is visible. Here you can see the existing one. These are the existing plans, existing rear elevation, bottom right. We
Justin,
did add a
is it
demo plan.
possible to respond to the staff's comments? We've all looked at the application. This is an individually designated home, and you're removing historic fabric. And so there is a 2-story addition. I guess it would be possible to consider a 3rd story on top of that. Have you considered that in response to the staff's questions?
Yeah, we did look at that. The house itself is very narrow. This is a very small plot. We are under 12 feet on the interior. The addition on the back is even smaller. It's like 8 feet inside. So in order to make this home habitable and meet the needs of our client, that's not possible. So we do need to make this large of addition.
Did I miss them? But I didn't see demolition drawings. So
yeah, we added them. That was something staff had asked for.
So here they are.
So demolition of the interior rear wall and rear 2-story portion. Existing floor joists to remain, except for where we're modifying the stair opening slightly. Still stays in the same location. It's just a small, tight winder stair, which we're going to enlarge to a new code compliance there. But all existing floor joists to remain, existing front wall and party walls to remain, and existing roof, rafters and roof to remain.
Is there still somewhat of an overbuild of the addition to the main roof?
So just where it ties in right there, There's like a small, like 3 foot portion, which we would tie into, but we would leave all the existing roof rafters underneath that to remain, all the structure to remain. So
This is a
just
final
for
approval,
drainage.
not a concept approval.
No, this is a final approval. We obtained a zoning permit, and yeah, this is a final approval.
I mean, it's pretty thin on information and details. There's a lot happening here with literally nothing to show us how they're attaching.
Are there party walls? Like,
So
your plans don't show.
So the right side is an alley. It's a like 2.5 foot wide alley. The left side is a party wall.
So one piece of context that I can offer is that at one point there was a rear L along the party wall to the left side, and then it was changed. This is the early 20th century, and a different L was built oriented to the right. So there are actually existing sort of walls on both sides of the lot, in case that's helpful.
Yeah, but where we're building does not directly abut an addition of a neighbor.
Are you extending further into the yard than the current L?
No, you can see the blue line there is the existing L. So the deck is slightly, it's like 2.5 feet past, but the building itself is actually shorter. And that's because it's a zoning requirement that we maintain the 30% open space. So we're shorter than the existing 2-story portion.
Not even a dimension on these plans. I mean, it's incredibly challenging to review this with so little information.
I don't understand why the dimension would be helpful, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, if these are construction documents, they usually have dimensions on them.
Well, these are not construction documents. We haven't produced construction documents yet. We would do that and review those with staff as part of our building permit application.
Are the dimensions on page 8 accurate? Because they show the
Can you
addition
go to
lining
page? Can you go to page
up
8?
with the neighbors' homes. There's like a floor plan, Ted, like oh sorry, your page 8 doesn't look like my page 8.
Page 8 of the document.
I mean, the zoning drawings here are dimensioned on the left. I think our addition is about 12.5 feet shorter than the current 2-story portion. Those dimensions are correct there too.
So this shows, Rustin, it lining up with the neighbor's L. Is that not true then?
Let me take a look at that. Sorry.
The last drawing that we saw didn't line up.
Hang on. So the neighbor's L is in line with our current, the current 2-story addition. So the neighbor's L is 2.5 feet further back than our proposed addition.
And what are these 5-foot wing walls that I see on this plan? If we zoom in, are those 3-story wing walls that frame the house?
No, they're just at the first floor. So it's a first floor cut through. They hold up the deck above. They're existing party walls on both sides. So they hold up the deck above. But they stop at the second floor deck.
Rustin, did you look at all at preserving some of the main rear wall of the main block of the house? That's a staff concern, and it's typically a concern of our committee as well.
Yeah, we did. It's just where the current fenestration is and access to the rear. we wouldn't get back there. We'd have to modify the entire rear wall in order to access the rear addition at the upper floor. So
But it could be modified rather than entirely demolished.
So when you look at the alley view or back street view, I mean, you do get a definite sense of there being sort of a block of three-story buildings with two-story additions to them or L's behind them. And I hear what you're saying about sort of this view that we're seeing on the right, but if you go a little further down the street, the views are even more open, and you can actually see the second stories of these additions as well. So there is a rhythm of massing, and I don't know that, you can sort of see it in this photo here. So there's a rhythm of massing that we're going to be disrupting here. And that rhythm is very much part of the historic character. I know this building is individually designated. This isn't part of a district at all, though, correct?
not that I'm aware of.
It
But
is. It is not.
Okay.
It does appear like it may have been. It was designated with others on the street, which sometimes we think of as like a de facto district in the era before historic districts.
So, and this is the end unit in that row. I mean, our third story addition would be aligning in context with the building to the left of it that you can see there in the red, which is 3 stories immediately adjacent to us.
But it looks like that third story is lower than the roof line of the main block. Is that correct?
I have not surveyed that building. I wouldn't be able to speak to that. That entire building is higher in general. So I'd have
I
to.
mean, one of my concerns is also just the relationship of your addition to the main block and the overbuild, and that you're sort of losing that feature of the house when you're looking at it because of the height of this proposed addition. And I understand you haven't yet done your construction documents, but there's no details of exactly how this overbuild is going to be designed.
You mean tied into the existing
Tied
building?
into the existing, the sort of weight that you're putting, the fact you've taken away the rear wall, which is supporting the end of the existing roof. There's no detail there that shows what it is. And I'm not saying you can't design it. You all have more than adequate qualifications, but it would be nice if that kind of detail was indeed included in a submission.
Understood. We'll do so moving forward. The roof rafters here go from party wall to party wall, so there's no weight to pick up on the back wall. So
The roof rafters go from party wall to party wall on the main block?
yeah, yeah, that's
Just
what our
sounds-
construction for this had shown.
So looking at this section, you're saying that the rafters are coming towards us in section
Correct.
on the main building.
That's what we discovered in our survey. I will confirm that before the commission hearing. But yes.
So I'm taking a closer look at this backyard condition, and you said that your building is directly adjacent to the three-story block, but it's not. There's actually a two-story piece in between, because what we're looking at is the back of the buildings on the adjacent street.
Correct. Yeah, there's an alley that abuts us and the immediate neighbor.
And then the immediate neighbor has a two-story addition before you get
At
to
the
story.
At the street level, but not in the rear where we are. The neighboring building in the rear is 3 stories.
It looks like it's 2 stories with the deck. And so when we talk about the rhythm of that back of the 2-story L's on the 3-story building, sort of what's happened to the left of your building is a different group of buildings altogether.
Correct.
So I'm back to my point about sort of this was the rhythm of the original historic building, and that it's still very much visible and very much in keeping with what else is happening elsewhere on this block. I remember having a project myself where, it was a similar concern about sort of the visibility of that original back third wall and maintaining that sense of there being the lower L there that we had to work very hard to maintain here. And I don't see why that wouldn't be the same case here. I have nothing else to add.
I would just add again, or reiterating the problem of the height of the proposed L, that it's coming up and actually looks like it's oversailing the original rear gable. And then assuming that we think a wing is, a new wing is appropriate, then I'm not sure what the floor ceiling heights are there, but that typically we would want this to come in underneath the rear cornice of the gable. I think there are instances where we do permit significant overbuilds or new Ls, but typically they are not visible. In this case, the visibility is somewhat obscured by the garage, but it will be visible, as John points out, sort of obliquely in relation, and will be noticeable in relative to its neighbors. So I think I agree with what the staff has said, that that the connection between the proposed new wing and the main block is that the addition is too high, and that some portions of the rear wall of the main block should remain. They could be modified.
Okay.
Do we have other comments from committee members?
No.
Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
Let's have a motion.
Oh, since I'm on a roll, I'll make a motion of going with the staff recommendations of denial pursuant to Standard 9 and the various comments that we've given you today.
Do we have
I'll
a second? All right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 2115 to 19 Spring Garden Street.
Right on time.
Wow.
What a great way to start the year. Congratulations, Dan.
Oh, don't
We just need to
compliment
keep
us
at
yet.
it.
You're not done yet.
I'll set a timer for 19.
Good morning, everyone. If we could please elevate Cano Design, who is the applicant for this application. If somebody is here representing Eclipse Development LLC, please raise your hand to be elevated. I'll read an overview. This application proposes to construct 4 townhouses on an existing vacant parcel in the Spring Garden Historic District. This parcel was vacant at the time of district designation and is classified as non-contributing to the district. It is considered undeveloped. Therefore, the Historical Commission's jurisdiction is limited to review and comment for this project. The proposed new construction would be faced with flat and textured red brick and cast stone, The 4 townhouse units would be perpendicular to Spring Garden, and parking spaces would be located below the units at ground level. The staff on this project comments that the proposed townhouses are not compatible in materials, features, and design with the buildings of the historic district, which generally include verticality, strong cornice lines, and slight setbacks. We received some updated drawings and renderings yesterday that slightly changed the design of the front facade. And so they're included in this presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Kerry Jackson-Yacht from Kano Design.
Good morning.
And I think, as Heather stated, we're proposing 4 townhomes. They are oriented perpendicular to Spring Garden Street. So lots of our kind of exercise here was the balance of how we're treating like an end unit, which is then becomes kind of like the primary facade facing Spring Garden Street, but then the balance of how we were laying out floor plans for the units as they step back that had a more typical orientation of primary windows on the front, or what we call the front back facades of each townhome. So that's basically the east and west facades. So in the end, the Spring Garden facade did have more blank facade area than you would typically see on a primary facade. And so in our effort to balance the interior layout within the exterior facades, and we're here where we definitely had some blank facade, we chose to create this kind of brick texture pattern. So the pattern here you're seeing is offset houndstooth. So kind of a traditional brick pattern, but we like to think used in a more, I don't want to say modern, more contemporary way. But while still maintaining some contextual features such as using red brick and then maintaining a cast stone base with a water table detail. I know there was some mention of cornice, and during the design process, we did kind of go back and forth about whether we thought a cornice was appropriate. And we thought here that we were trying to do a, like I say, a more contemporary addition to the streetscape along Spring Garden. And therefore we decided to not go with the more traditional cornice detail. So that's the kind of summary of how we got to where we are here now.
I see that this application is review and comment. I guess that's because at time of designation, it was an open lot, Heather?
Yes, at time of designation, it was a vacant lot that was characterized as non-contributing.
I guess my response to this one was visceral. I mean, I think the turning of the row house, as you call it, is detrimental to the block. I think it doesn't follow the essential pattern of other row houses in this neighborhood and is ultimately unsuccessful. I think it turns its back on the street. I think the use of red brick doesn't resolve the challenges that you're facing because the building itself lacks the sense of transparency and that front door presence that a row house has that really construe the entire block. I think the garage door on the front is not something that you see in this neighborhood or on this block, and that's a problem in and of itself, and I don't support it. And I think the overall character is one that looks more like a fortress than a home. And I think there are probably things that you can do to turn that around, more significant than what was perhaps made in this new elevation. And I would encourage the design team to do that, to try to help this building fit better into a block. I think that can still be done in a contemporary way. I don't think this is about historic architecture versus contemporary architecture. I just think it doesn't look like a building that faces the street. It's turning its back on the street and its neighborhood, and the resolution of the facade and the application of red brick doesn't really change that. I think it's really about the solids and voids in the facade, the flatness of the facade, and many of the other character defining features. It just doesn't fit into this neighborhood.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, I think that the sort of the fundamental choice of putting it side to the street is, it's kind of like, once you go down that road, I don't know if there's anything that can be done to fit it within the historic character of the space. And then the application of the houndstooth, I think, exacerbates it, honestly. I don't recall there being any houndstooth brick on that block. So, I mean, other than the use of brick, I see no connection to this historic district with this design.
Why wouldn't a townhouse or a row house want windows, as many as possible, on these facades? Yeah, like, why is the fourth floor, excuse me, completely windowless?
The windows here are primarily on the east and west facades, and a lot of this has to do with just how the floor plan's laid out. So I think on upper left in that unit on the fourth floor, we have the bathroom, and I think it might be a closet on the other end. And a lot of it was just how the floor plan's laid out, and considering that the townhomes did kind of lay out like traditional townhomes, where the east and west facades were the primary facades. And and then I know that you're going to downplay it, but a lot of times is, where was a good place to put a bed? And so there were some very kind of practical reasons for how the facade laid out. And that's why we tried to be kind of creative to deal with the fact that we had a facade that did not have as many windows.
But you're in control of that as the architect, and you can choose to turn this home and make the home that faces the street different, to create a different facade and presence on Spring Garden. I mean, it doesn't have to be a series of book-matched row homes down a block to be successful as a piece of architecture on Spring Garden. So I would challenge you to actually take the last row house and to turn it towards the street. Maybe it looks different in plan than the other row houses in the block.
Two of them, and face the street. I mean, in essence, you've got 4 in a row, 2 of which are almost square. I mean, just turn those 90 degrees, face them forward.
If you look at the plans, none of these are almost square. These are kind of very...
No, I mean, 2 of them put together is a square box, relatively. And if you twist it 90 degrees, I don't know. I just think the concept of turning them is completely lost on the execution at the sake of the streetscape, which is such an opportunity. I just I have a hard time with this in many ways.
It
the
seems in
unfortunate
many
part is
ways
it-
to be driven by the parking underneath too. So I agree with Justin that you could take the front block and rotate it 90 degrees and have a facade facing the street. But it seems like they're set up, in cookie cutter fashion, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that, as Amy pointed out, that the front unit or units could be different. But there's a lot of effort and space, given to parking cars underneath them.
And that's not really going to change in Philadelphia.
Well, it is this streetscape because it's not a streetscape of driveways.
It's an existing parking lot and an existing driveway, so not that I'm disagreeing with what you're saying, but it is an existing condition.
I mean, I think fundamentally the issue that we're dealing with is that you're putting 4 units on what's basically 3 properties. But I mean, I'm just looking at it. There's like less than a 3-foot difference of length versus width of those first 2 units. So I mean, this idea of rotating is kind of a fascinating one to me. And given that the width is actually the side facade width, or the front it's not on the street, is actually the narrower one, that might actually allow you to make one of the alleys a little bit wider and use that as an entrance drive to get to parking underneath the buildings that way, instead of interrupting the facades with a garage. So, I mean, the unit widths are also wide, 21-foot 3-inch unit widths, 21-foot 6, and you could easily squeeze, a little bit out of each of those and pick up some width too to help with that entrance idea along one alley side.
Okay, thank you.
Are there oh, sorry.
Go ahead, no.
Just wondering if there were community comments for this one.
I just had one more question before that I'm not sure where you are relative to the other buildings on Spring Garden. Are your facades aligned?
Facades aligned, yes.
Yeah. Another thing that might be helpful, just where you have the 2 portals that extend out from the buildings, if those could be recessed a bit, it would kind of emphasize the sort of gaps between the buildings.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something we could consider. Would you change materials from our primary facade?
Yeah, in fact, I think they could just be nice metal gates without the masonry. So there's more of a sense of just a void between them. Typically, you would have metal gates in alleyways.
Oh, yeah, I think an ornamental metal gate is something we could definitely consider.
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, I bet that is what actually is going on in the alleyways between the adjacent houses. Yeah, it looked. Okay, no, I think that's a great suggestion.
Good. All right, now if
Even
there are
better
no
if
other,
that's where the car entrance would be.
Say it again, John.
But even better if that's where the car entrance would be, so you don't have that garage door in your facades.
Interesting. Let me see if I can make that work.
all right, do we have other comments from committee members? Do we have public comment?
Yes, one hand raised, 2 now. First is Hannah Stark, and second is Pat.
Good morning, committee members. This is Hannah Stark speaking on behalf of the Preservation Alliance. While we recognize that the Historical Commission does not have full jurisdiction over this design, I just want to second many of the staff's and committee members' comments, particularly about reducing the flatness of the facade and strengthening the relationship to the historic rhythm of Spring Garden Street. Lowering the water table on the first floor is a good step, but we believe that additional adjustments could result in a far more compatible design that could contribute to the historic district. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your comment. And then is Pat with us?
This is Patricia Freeland for Spring Garden CDC and Spring Garden Civic Association. I would just like to echo the comments of the committee members and the Preservation Alliance. We do not believe that this project, this design as it's presented, is compatible with the street or the historic district. Thank you.
Thank you for commenting. We don't necessarily need to make a motion, but if someone would like to, we can go ahead and do that.
I mean, I just agree with the staff comment and the other comments that we made.
All right, then. No motion necessary then. All right, well, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
We have 2 minutes before the next agenda item. It's 10:25, so let's begin with 229 North Camac Street.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is Alex Till with the staff. I will be reading an overview for this particular project. At first, we can elevate the applicant is listed as Wen Lin. I believe he is likely signed in under Cubby or Kubi. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce that correctly. I will start with a brief overview. This application proposes to construct a rear addition with a roof deck and pilot house on a row house at the individually designated property at 229 North Camac Street. The row house was constructed circa 1840 and is 3.5 stories tall with a gabled roof, front and rear dormers, and a red brick facade. The historic rear L is connected to the main block of the house by a narrower, slightly taller piazza. To construct the addition, the historic rear L would be demolished and the pitched roof of the piazza would be removed. The addition would be clad in cement board siding and would be 3 stories tall, but its walls would extend up above the roof line to form a deck that would occupy all of the addition's roof area, as well as that of the historic piazza. The deck would be accessed by a pilot house. The rear of the building is visible from surrounding Summer and North 12th Streets, though from long viewpoints and across a parking lot and other undeveloped parcels. I'll sort of picture that here. Staff recommendation for this project is denial as proposed, but approval of a revised addition that is smaller and clad with materials that more closely align with the historic character of the building pursuant to Standard 9.
Is the applicant with us?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Alex, for the presentation. My name's Wen. Thanks for commission members as well. My name's Wen. I'm the architect of the proposed addition and renovation of 229 North Camac Street. So this project is actually including partial demolition of the rear wall and erection of rear 3-story addition to the existing attached structure with a roof deck. It will be used for 3 dwelling units by zoning. The property used to be a single family vacant for a long time. So we are proposing new renovation, make it back to good use as typical residential building in this zoning district. As for the front facade, we are proposing to keep it as is with necessary required repairs to preserve the historic characters of the existing structure. So thank you for your consideration and look forward to work with historic department. Thank you.
So would you like to respond to the staff's comments about the size of the addition?
What's the comments again?
That was concerned about the scale, the size, or we'll say the height of the addition.
Sorry, I was going to clarify a little bit. Yes, the comment was on kind of the height coming up kind of quite as high as it was, as well as the little clarification on the proposed materials for the cladding of the addition as well.
So the height actually we actually it won't be seen as you stated, it won't be seen from the front and will be seen from the rear parking space only. So it's a parking private parking owned. So usually pedestrian. For the height is actually will be actually similar to the new. If you see the corner building, it's actually similar height to that. That building was constructed, I think, during the pandemic. So this building is actually right next to it, which we designed is pretty as close as much for the same looking. The material wise, the rear we are using cement board, which is premium looking much better than the plastic vinyl one.
But you are proposing demolishing part of the rear wall of the original house. You're proposing to modify the roof of the original house, and you're proposing something that is visible this isn't an alley. This is indeed, it is visible from the rear. And the fact that its neighbor was constructed probably was the fact that that house wasn't, I believe this house is individually listed, that adjacent property wasn't. So it didn't start with the same resource.
Right. So the rear, the part we demolished is the existing is actually 2 stories. So it has the side setback. What we're proposing is actually extend to the property line. So
I mean, it part of it is the massing, but it's also the height of what you're proposing is so it's out of scale with the historic resource. And that concerns me as to the massing that you're proposing and the height of what you're proposing and the modifications of the historic resource. Now, I'm one of 6 people, so each committee member has can voice comments, concerns, questions. So,
do you think? Yes.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Do you think if we make the same depth as the 2 adjacent building would make it good, much better, and lower the height to match the next building, the next 2 buildings as well?
Without seeing what you're proposing, it's hard to say yay or nay. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Could you go back to the section drawing? Sorry, Allison.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead now.
Well, I was just curious because looking at that overview picture and trying to compare that, I was trying to compare it with the roof demo. I don't have a good feel for what, are you demoing part of the main roof? Like your picture looks like, or your plan on.
I think they're demoing the eave of the edge of the existing roof.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
when I
it's
look at this,
misleading on the demo plan, but looking at the picture, it appears that you'd have to be for the new work plan.
you know, when I look at this section, I see a big piece of the rear gable missing.
Right, but that wasn't clear to me as I read the demo plan, so I honestly missed that at first, that you were cutting into the main roof like that.
I think that's my primary concern here is that the rear gable is being partially dismantled and that the rear wall, I guess, is entirely gone. And
yeah, you're pulling it back to that dormer, which I don't like that at all.
So we won't touch the dormer and the gable roof at all, since we are only demoing the rear part of that, like a setback building. The front, the main building, we won't be touching it.
But I think you're removing its rear wall, correct?
Yeah, and it looks like you are cutting off part of the main roof, as
They are. I mean,
yeah.
And
like I'm looking at this section and you could see, on the picture, the main roof keeps going. Here, you've kind of cut it off with the face of the dormer.
And the question is how the framing is.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm like.
As I did the like survey, the front roof is actually go to the if you see from go to the floor, but actually in the back of the gable roof is actually doesn't touch the floor. So what I show here, it looks like cut off, but actually it's not existing. It actually has little bit overhang. We don't actually if you get closer, it actually doesn't only the slope, like only the side slope parts we are actually demolition, but for the gable one, we don't actually touch it.
I think this photograph though shows the roof extending well beyond the dormer, and you're removing that section of the roof.
Mm, yeah, I can go take a actual photo. So for to show exactly what's the
Well,
look.
it would be helpful to have, I don't know, some demolition plans that show us that condition.
Okay.
Because it looks from this photograph, comparing this photograph to the section drawing, it seems that you are removing a good section of the rear slope of the main block of the house. And then I would also then, it looks as if you're removing the entire rear wall of the house as well. So we would typically like to see elements of the rear wall remain, the full slope of the rear main block of the house remain, and that the overbuild or addition to the L actually tucks under or respects that rear cornice line.
Got it.
So is
Yeah,
this addition going to the property line?
You mean the side or the rear?
On the side.
Yes, the addition right now we are proposing is actually going to the property line.
Okay, so that space, that outdoor space then between the existing and the new is completely enclosed then. The only way to get to it is through the building?
Yes, it will be the atrium space will be remain, but the side rear walk will be closed.
No, it's not really our problem or concern here, but it looks like your neighbor has windows onto that property line there that you're going to be blocking up.
Yeah, I can, because right now the door is damaged, so I won't be able to go to the courtyard. But I will when I go there, after I get outside, I will take a photo if there's kind of like adjacent windows. Yeah.
You know, when I look at these plans, it looks to me as if you have a little slot in the building, and if that slot occurred where the rear wall is, and then you have a kind of a hyphen, you have an opportunity to really control the way you connect to the main block of the house.
Yeah, we were trying to consider all your comments and to align with the other buildings as much as we can.
I think the neighboring building that's had the rear wing rebuilt, that's quite high, and that one actually goes over goes over the rear main roof of its main gable, and that's not something that we would like to see. So your neighboring roof goes right up to the dormer, which is kind of looks like what you're proposing. But that would not meet our or the Secretary of Interior standards. You'd want to see the main slope, the rear slope of the main body of the house preserved, so that your third story would go underneath it.
Well, Dan, it looks like the dormer's extended forward, because if you carry along that eave line,
It looks like it was rebuilt.
On the
Yeah.
neighboring
On the
house.
neighboring, it looks like it's been made larger.
So if I'm reading this correctly, which I might not be, but if the new addition to this building aligned with that one, the dormer, and left the dormer alone, it looks like it would relatively hit the eave line, which is what we would generally want to happen. But I'm not sure. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I think one of the other things I struggled with was just a lack of drawings that related your building to the neighbors, like either an elevation drawing and a plan drawing, just so I could understand dimensionally because the way you bump out, like I couldn't get a feel for how much space was between yours and the neighboring building anymore. It's really hard with some of the context missing. So I'd like to see that, or I would recommend if you haven't developed it, that's something you develop just so you can understand it in context. Because I think that's some of what we're reacting to. Is it just I've been trying to relate this picture to the plans, and I'm struggling. There's a bit of a disconnect.
Yes, I will add two buildings, the neighbor's building, to my 3D rendering for your comments.
And add
Yeah,
it on
and
the
I'd
plan
recommend a
too,
plan too. I mean, 3D renderings are great, but a lot of times they're wrong. At least in my experience with these applications, because one might be in SketchUp and another one's in CAD. It would just be helpful. And so, like, if you believe you are doing all of the things we're talking about, like aligning with the neighbor and not being more than, I think dimensionally you could show that on an elevation or a plan or a section that includes your neighbors and show that context. Because right now it does look like you're sort of trying to almost dwarf them and chopping off more of the existing building than we'd want and things like that.
Okay, yeah, we will do that. Mhm.
All right, just one more comment on the neighboring building to the right there. It looks, I don't know, it's difficult to tell, but as if that rear slope has been lifted. But anyway, your rear cornice is where should be the guiding point.
Yeah, as I doing the survey there, so the rear part of building is actually has a lot of cracking and pretty bad condition. That's why we are trying to make it as square as possible to make it more livable for the use of the historic building without touching the front parts, front half of the whole building. So
If you aligned your atrium with that current void, that would save a lot of trouble, and you could still rebuild that wall as necessary to repair it. But you would leave it in the same place. The existing structure would be maintained, and create your new wing from that end of which I guess was like a piazza or something, stair or something.
Yeah, it almost looks like that is sort of an intent in the drawings, but that piazza seems to have now invaded the house.
yeah, we will come out another design. So based on your comments.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing the revisions.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have other comments from committee members?
Nope.
Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion of denial as proposed. I think there were just a lot of little details discussed. So I think they're covering the comments, and just leave it as denial as proposed then is the motion.
I'll second.
Right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you.
Thanks. Mm-hmm.
All right, the final item on our agenda today is 425 South 42nd Street.
Good morning, everyone. Before I read a brief overview, I would ask that Carmen Bushong and Carlo Di Silvestro and Brandon McNeese please be elevated to panelists. Thank you. This application seeks final approval for alterations to the church building at 425 South 42nd Street. The church was designed by architect Charles Burns and constructed in 1879. Originally known as the Trinity Episcopal Church of Marylandville, the building will be rehabilitated for Cornerstone Christian Academy. The most visible alterations will be the construction of an accessibility ramp, entrance courtyard, and addition for a vestibule on the south elevation. Exterior changes planned for the north elevation include the removal of 2 original dormers and the reconfiguration of a wall and roof area to accommodate an elevator. The alterations will be inconspicuous from the public right of way on the north elevation. The application scope of work also includes window replacement and tower masonry restoration. The Historical Commission staff can typically review and approve this part of the scope of work administratively. So the staff recommendation is approval provided the proposed revisions are implemented with staff to review details pursuant to standards 5, 9, and 10. And with us today to discuss the application with you are architects Carmen Bushong and Carlo Di Silvestro. And from the Christian Cornerstone Academy, representing ownership is Brandon McNeese. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us today. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Allison, for that. Like she said, we also have Carlo on this call, who is our project architect, and Brandon McNeese joining us, who is the head of school for Cornerstone Christian Academy and can speak to any operations questions that we may have as we go along. So I just wanted to give a quick brief statement before we talk through some of the recommendations that were provided. And we just wanted to point out, this is a renovation of an existing church building located at the intersection of 42nd Street and Baltimore Avenue of the Southeast Spruce Hill District. The existing church building had most recently been used as a school, and now it's being renovated for the new home of the K-4 grades of Cornerstone Christian Academy. We're going to get into the specifics of all of this, but we just wanted to point out that some of the main objectives here were to leave as much of the exterior intact as possible. And we've documented a series of improvements to this building, but really every modification that's been proposed is really meant to make the building accessible and to improve the energy efficiency of the building and also make it a safe place for students to come to every day. We want to make sure that this building continues to contribute to its neighborhood, and we appreciate all of the feedback that you have given us so far. Brandon, is there anything that you'd like to comment on before we get into the recommendations?
Yeah, thanks, Carmen, and good morning, Commission. We're very excited about this project. It's going to allow us to radically improve the educational environment of our youngest students and expand the number that we are serving in Southwest Philadelphia. No family at Cornerstone is paying more than 10% the cost of education through tuition. And there's great need, made even more significant due to the recent announcement of closures of public schools, several of which are in our neighborhood. And as Carmen said, as far as the changes to the facade, it's really just prioritizing accessibility for our students and our faculty with the ramp and the elevator, and then adding a little safety with the entryway so that it has a 2-point buzz-in system that is not currently present to make sure that anybody entering the front door cannot immediately access where the children would be learning.
Would it be appropriate now for us to go through the recommendations and I think there are a few things that we wanted to have some clarification on, but I think overall we agree with the direction and don't have issue. We just wanted to talk through some of the points.
Sure, go ahead and respond to the staff's comments.
Sure. So under the standards for review, there were a couple of points that we wanted to talk through. The first one being about the original gate in the courtyard. Our drawings indicate that that gate's to be removed. We wanted to discuss that a little bit in more depth. The main entry to the school will be through that gate and into the new vestibule that will be created. That does become a bit of a pinch point, and we are trying. The entry is becoming a little bit challenging because of all of the pinch points along the way there. I think we wanted to ask the question if perhaps that gate could be relocated elsewhere on the property, so it still has a presence on site, or if the recommendation means that it should remain in place and remain untouched.
So Carmen, when I wrote that recommendation, my intention was that either not that it didn't necessarily have to remain exactly as it is as a closed gate, but that it could potentially, sometimes with a gate like that, what might happen is it's pushed back, secured against the wall, and it sort of remains
Okay.
in place so that you still get all that, movement through that courtyard that you need. That would be sort of the ideal situation. It could be relocated, or perhaps it could simply be stored on site. But oftentimes in a situation like this, it could remain in place and just secured back.
Well, that's great news. That clarification helps. Thank you. The next item, regarding the entrance doors, we just wanted to make a clarification here. We have indicated that the hardware would be replaced in kind. There are a couple of upgrades that are going to need to happen just to make the door accessible, and that's the historic door at the chapel, if you wanted to go to that page. But the pole, for example, will need to be replaced in order to make it comply with accessibility codes. So we just wanted to make sure that it was clear that like these hinges are going to be replaced in kind, and they will look similar to what is there currently. The pole will be replaced in order to make it ADA compliant. And I'm assuming that we would present that to you for review during our submittal process.
Yes, I just want to clarify the reason why I said that about the hardware is we had an earlier discussion where, and I thought it was reflected in these plans that the hardware itself, those larger strap hinges, the decorative ones, would be refurbished and put back.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's kind of really where my focus was.
Okay.
If there's some of the nuance there and the details that can be worked out.
Fantastic. We just wanted to make sure.
But the
Is there going to
hinges
be a
will
door
remain.
operator on this door, or just manual?
So on the inside, we are doing a push bar, a panic bar to get out, but there would be an automatic door operator. Yes.
So there's a push button on the outside somewhere
Yep. It's actually shown in the elevation there.
in
Yep.
the elevation. Okay, I was looking on the plan. Oh, there it is. I would be okay okay with that being mounted on a post, seeing how thick that stone wall is and what you might have to do to get that installed. I don't know if it'd be wireless or hardwired or what, but I would be open to that being pole mounted.
That's good to know. That's a detail we haven't worked through yet. So.
I think it would be ideal to modify the hinges or reuse them and not reproduce them, if possible, to work with them in some way.
Carla, maybe you could speak to that a little bit. You've been working on the details of that.
Yeah, so the intent is to take the existing hinges and refurbish them. The thought, however, is we need to raise the bottom hinge 10 inches to meet the ADA flush clearance on the inside of the door. Because we need that 10-inch clearance, a lot of those the bolts are actually bolted through the door, so we can't have those bolts within that clearance. So we'll push them up. But the other thing is that these are actual hinges. These aren't just decorative brackets, and we don't believe that these hinges would be able to support the new door that goes in. So the intent is to cut it off at the hinge, reutilize the bracket portion, so it satisfies that need, and then we'll have a continuous hinge for the doors themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you weren't like remaking it completely out of aluminum or something and painting it black. I mean, it would be ideal if it was retained as much as possible.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep, that's the goal.
Yep.
So there was a comment about not doing the cast stone balustrade and doing it all in metal. I could actually go either way on this. But I think that if you were to do a cast stone balustrade, you would need to do it on the west side also, so that the sort of the two sides that define that landing are the same. That being said, I could also see going with more of just a metal. The piers that you have, so separating the railing are also cast stone. What do you call them, pillars?
Correct.
What are they intended to match the other stone on the building? Because the rendering made it look a little different in character.
They are lighter in color. And the tone of it was meant to kind of match the tone of the brick that's in the band that you see on the tower, so that you kind of get that differentiation. Otherwise, if it's dark, you more have a mass on the corner of the building.
I think I don't know that that's going to do what you want it to do.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to see that relationship as strongly. And I think that the contrast between that lighter cast stone and the darker stone, it's gonna come across kind of like racing stripes. I don't think it's gonna to blend as well. So I think it should be, if you look at like the color of the surround at the arched door or those windows, that's a lighter color. But now that starts to connect the ramp trim back to the trim of the building, I think a little more successfully.
Okay.
I think the ramp being lighter is better without those piers, because they kind of start to block the kind of nice lightness and cleanness of the facade of the church. So I would not compete with it. I would just keep it simple. I mean, it's still nice to do the masonry below the floor of the ramp, but to just do it as a series of bronze or black railings, to me, of a nice quality, I think it almost disappears that way and doesn't compete.
Okay.
I agree with Justin, and that a nice stone plinth with a beautiful metal railing would be very appropriate here, and it would reduce the kind of the visual impact of the ramp as well. So if you wanted to have some slight piers where posts sit on top, you could do that. But I think using the stone as a stone base with metal above would be my preferred approach. I think
So
that's what
Justin,
the staff is also recommending.
Yeah, you could still detail it really beautifully and high quality, and just it would just make it a little lighter.
Justin and Dan, is your suggestion eliminating the pillars entirely? So
Well, at the very least, from the slope of the ramp. The stoop I could go back and forth about, the flat, but I would have no problem if it was all metal sitting on stone.
Okay.
I agree. I think, if you look at the tower in particular, there's a lot of horizontal banding, so it has a very horizontal orientation. in the elements of the facade. And I think the ramp having those very strong piers takes away from that and makes it more about the ramp. And what you want to do is just see the building. And I agree. I think the lower that is, the more the railing sort of goes away, the better. Because it's
And
going to bring forward the features of the facade, which everyone, recalls in the neighborhood and defines the character of the block.
Charles Burns was a master, and I've worked on another church or two that he designed, and he loved these textures of material, and there's such a cleanness to it, yet such a depth of detail that I just I don't want to compete with that myself. But I think just let it be.
I think that's really good feedback. Thank you.
And just to address John's question about the piers, I think you might have small kind of expression of piers in the base, but it would all be the same masonry and not the contrasting masonry. So so that the base reads as a single material of the ramp, the base of the ramp.
Got it.
Could I ask a clarifying question about that? In the recommendation notes, it does comment that about selecting a contrasting material. Where was that? So modifying the color or material. Was that in reference to the cast stone or to the rubble stone that was shown? Like, should we not try to match the stone of the building?
No, that comment had to do with the columns or the piers that they've been speaking
Okay.
about.
Got it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Do you
Fourth
think that
elevation.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
was wondering where the dormers were that were being removed. They're on the flip side here.
That's right. Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so let me go back to the beginning. So this is, and if the team can jump in here, is which road is this? This would be I'm trying to remember, west elevation. Is that correct,
south.
Carmen?
So what you're showing now is Baltimore Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay,
South
Baltimore
elevation.
Avenue.
Yeah.
So this is the north elevation right here.
Yeah.
So Dan, just to clarify, the dormers are here.
The screen isn't changing for us on our end.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so
Sorry.
sorry. Gosh, I'm gonna stop this for a minute and then I'm gonna open it again and see what happens. Sorry about that.
Looks like it's slow to launch, Alice.
Okay, sorry about this. I'm a little bit concerned about my connection. So can I ask you, did you see me going through or did it stay on the same slide the whole time?
It was on the ramp.
It was on the ramp. Okay, so hold on just one moment, Ken. Okay.
Just
Are you
that
seeing it?
it says Allison has started screen sharing,
It's
but it
still
doesn't
thinking.
actually show
It's-
your screen.
It's trying.
Okay.
It's trying.
If you'd like,
Yeah.
we can also share. I do have the submission up.
You're not able to actually. I don't think
Oh,
No, you're not
all
able
right.
to.
You don't have the privileges for that,
Yeah.
right?
Let me
Can
just
one
say,
of the other staff members share?
let me ask, Kim, this is actually out on SharePoint. If you're able to grab that and download it and open it. Yeah, I'm getting actually a message that says the screen sharing is paused. So I apologize. I think there's something going on with my connection right now. And full disclosure, I actually have two school students in the house who are doing online school right now. So I suspect that might be part of the issue. Okay. Hold on a minute.
Allison, can
Yes.
You
you
need to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Yes.
One sec.
Thanks for everybody's patience on this.
I'll say in the meantime, it's a nice project. We appreciate your willingness to look at these details because this is a building where the details matter more than most. But it's a lovely project overall.
And I also thank you for the present level of presentation.
That was all Carla. Thanks, Carla.
Thank you.
And thank you for your comments too. No, this is a wonderful project. We're so excited to be working on it, and this is a wonderful building.
It's nice to see the building sort of brought back a bit. I lived for many years just 2 blocks up the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Actually 1 block, 2 block. There we go.
Awesome. I think
So
it's a
Kim-
north elevation sheet.
If you go back a couple slides, it was part of the staff recommendation. There was a picture of the north elevation. Yeah. One more. Next one. That one right there. Yeah.
So it's those 3 little dormers.
We're only
Right,
removing
in the
2.
rear, 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's shown also on page 13 of 24. We have a roof plan that indicates which ones in particular we're removing. Oop. Page 13 of 24. It's a demolition roof plan. So you might have to go up a couple sheets.
Sorry, I'm looking at the page number on the sheet. Do you know?
If you go to page 6, try that.
Or page 14.
There you go.
There we go.
That's it. Perfect. So those are the 2 dormers there and the roof that would be removed for the elevator.
But Kim, if you go to page 14, I believe, which is the north elevation, you can see what they're proposing. There.
Yep.
Height of that is being driven by what?
So we need to maintain a height for the elevator cab itself and the clearance around it, which is why we wouldn't be able to save the 2 dormers, which is what we had first attempted to do. So the intent now is we should be able to align it with the existing ridge line of the roof, and have it sloped in such a way that we can still maintain the clearance above the elevator cab for the beam and the safety tie-offs. So that's the intent of the addition. We did attempt to save as much of the dormer as possible.
But in terms of the front eave line of that, that's as low as that can go.
The front eave line, yeah.
Where your gutter is, because to me, I'm not opposed to a kind of shed dormer here in this location, but it just looks so kind of top heavy. That's what I was reacting to as I looked at it. But that's accommodating the overrun, I guess.
Yeah.
And an office.
And an office, yeah.
There's also an office going in there that I don't think exists currently, right?
So that's the existing kitchenette that we're reusing.
Well, if there's any way to drop that eave down, I mean, not necessarily a full shed dormer, but as you get out towards the edge to drop it as a partial gable.
Yeah. So what you see in the elevation, the double windows there, those are to the kitchenette, and there's an existing kitchenette that utilizes that one dormer, and then the single double sash window on the other side, that's to the landing for the elevator, if that helps orient you.
So could you split that and drop the eave to just above the window for the kitchenette or office, and then pop it up even further for the elevator? It would just help
I could look
disguise.
at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would help. It would help disguise the kind of blockiness of it. Um, just kind of chip away at it, and from that sliver of a view down the center, or down that hall or sidewalk or whatever it is,
Mhm.
it might just make it feel a little lighter and lower.
Okay.
Where's the machine closet going for this elevator?
It's a machine roomless elevator, so it's in the jam on the first floor landing. That's where all the mechanisms are. And then there is a gear mast that goes within the shaft itself that drives the elevator up and down.
Almost a residential elevator.
It is a limited use. It's a Lula.
It's a Lula.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we've all put one of those in on at least one project.
Could we look at the vestibule infill there? I think. I don't have the sheet number, but it's.
So we have it dimensioned on the floor plan, and then we have a sheet dedicated to just the elevation. Did you want to look just
Yeah,
at the
just look at the
elevation?
elevation of it.
Okay.
I understand the
That's
need for the vestibule,
22.
and I realize it's quite tucked away there.
hmm
Um,
If you go to if you're looking at the numbers at the bottom of the sheets, it's sheet 15. Yeah.
I think I guess a couple of comments there would, first, at least the apparent depth of the fascia that you're showing there, it looks very, very deep. So if that could be thinned up. And then I think the transom as a single big piece of glass could be subdivided a bit, as might the side light on the door, just to give it a little kind of a little more scale to those elements.
Okay. The side light on the door is also kind of hidden behind the buttress that you see in the rendering.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's a double door. I got you.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that maybe the transom breaks up a bit instead of being
Okay.
a big piece of glass. And
Okay.
that fascia looks very deep, and I know there's new insulation requirements, but I think once you get outside the envelope, you could thin up that what it looks like visually.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it looks a little clunky and top heavy. If that thinned up, that would work wonders.
Oh, the section shows sort of a two-part fascia,
Yeah.
two planes. And if that upper plane maybe projected out a little bit more, create a little bit more of a shadow line, a little bit more of a plane difference, I
Okay.
think that could make a big difference. Where instead of the soffit panel being right at, if you go to the next sheet, I think it is. Maybe instead of the soffit panel being directly at the storefront, there's a fascia that's more back by the storefront, and then you have an overhang, and the soffit kind of breaks up that mass.
Okay.
Right, like you're not really seeing that line in the rendering there. I see
No.
that.
Yeah.
Also don't see it in the elevation drawing to the left there.
Yep.
The fact that we're talking about such fussy little
Yeah.
things is a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, do we have other comments? Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion of approval consistent with the staff recommendation, I think at the ramp, we discussed agreement on going with a metal railing instead of the cast stone baluster and pillars. And to make some other refinements to, gosh, I don't want to go and list all of them. They were all in the all captured in the discussion, and I don't have a full list.
Elevator dormer.
Yeah, with the changes discussed, the elevator dormer to the soffit above the new entrance, confirmation of the strap hinges being the metal strap of the strap hinge being reused, the existing metal gate being held back in place in its existing location, but it's kind of secured back so it doesn't interfere with circulation. I don't think if there's anything else.
The installation of the handicap button in a freestanding pillar.
Right. I just said that could be an option. It
Okay.
wasn't a requirement.
Okay. Sorry.
And the vestibule elevation, or
The soffit or the transom.
reducing, yeah,
Yeah.
just some refinements to the vestibule.
I will second with staff to review details.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with that motion. Summarizing that.
All right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, and thank you, committee members. We will see you next month.
Very good.
Bye.